The episode kicks off with some exciting news, because Chandler has something big to announce. He has asked everyone to come over, and the moment he arrives, it becomes obvious that something special is happening. Soon, the big secret is revealed. Monica and Chandler are engaged. Everyone is thrilled for them, and Monica is especially excited because she has been waiting for this moment for a long time. She is so happy that she can barely contain herself. She keeps announcing that she is getting married and that she is going to be a bride. But as usual with this group, a peaceful celebration doesn't last very long. While everyone is celebrating Monica and Chandler's engagement, Ross and Rachel accidentally reveal that they recently kissed. And suddenly, the attention shifts away from the newly engaged couple. Monica is understandably annoyed because this was supposed to be her night. She has waited a long time to finally celebrate her engagement, and now everyone is wondering whether Ross and Rachel are getting back together. Ross and Rachel quickly try to explain that the kiss doesn't mean they're a couple again. According to them, it was just a one-time thing. But the rest of the group is obviously not buying how simple they are making it sound. This is one of those situations where everyone says it doesn't mean anything, while everyone watching knows that it probably means something. Meanwhile, Phoebe has a completely different mission. She wants to recreate her grandmother's famous chocolate chip cookie recipe. The recipe has apparently been treated like a legendary family secret, so Phoebe and Monica decide to figure it out by experimenting. And when I say experimenting, I mean they make a ridiculous number of cookies. They keep producing new batches and comparing them. One batch has orange peel, another has different ingredients, and they're constantly trying to remember which version tastes closest to the original. Eventually, Phoebe realizes that one particular batch tastes almost exactly like her grandmother's cookies. So now they just need to figure out what makes it special. After all the detective work, they finally discover the truth. The recipe came from Nestle Toll House. So basically, they spent days trying to uncover a mysterious family recipe, only to discover that the secret was hiding in plain sight. And honestly, after all that work, I think the cookies deserved their own award. The story then moves over to Rachel, who is interviewing someone for an assistant position. The candidate is Tag Jones, and although he doesn't have much office experience, Rachel likes his personality and confidence. The interview quickly becomes more complicated because Rachel and the others start talking about embarrassing stories from the past. One secret leads to another, and before long, the friends are basically holding an unofficial competition to see who can embarrass each other the most. Ross's past becomes a major target, and some of his old college habits come back to haunt him. Chandler also isn't safe because the group knows plenty of embarrassing stories about him. What makes the situation even funnier is that everyone seems willing to expose someone else's secret, but the moment their own secret comes up, they suddenly want everyone to stop talking. It's basically the friend group's version of mutually assured destruction. Next, Monica and Chandler need a good photograph for their engagement announcement. Well, not when Chandler is involved. The photographer asks him to smile naturally, but Chandler's attempts at looking normal somehow make him look even more awkward. Then the photographer tries different expressions and poses, but nothing seems to work. Monica tries to help by showing Chandler how she poses for professional pictures. Chandler attempts to copy her, but instead of looking confident, he somehow looks even more uncomfortable. At this point, taking one normal engagement picture has become a full-blown production. Eventually, they manage to find a picture that actually looks good, and the engagement announcement can finally move forward. Then we get one of the funniest parts involving Ross and Joey. After accidentally falling asleep together, they wake up and realize that they had an incredibly comfortable nap. Well, not when Chandler is involved. The photographer asks him to smile naturally, but Chandler's attempts at looking normal somehow make him look even more awkward. Then the photographer tries different expressions and poses, but nothing seems to work. Monica tries to help by showing Chandler how she poses for professional pictures. Chandler attempts to copy her, but instead of looking confident, he somehow looks even more uncomfortable. At this point, taking one normal engagement picture has become a full-blown production. Eventually, they manage to find a picture that actually looks good, and the engagement announcement can finally move forward. Then we get one of the funniest parts involving Ross and Joey. After accidentally falling asleep together, they wake up and realize that they had an incredibly comfortable nap. Now, normally, you would just wake up and move on with your day. But Ross and Joey are not normal. They start discussing the nap like they've just discovered a scientific breakthrough. Ross tries to pretend that it wasn't anything special, but eventually admits that it really was an amazing nap. Joey, of course, immediately wants to do it again. Ross knows that the whole thing sounds ridiculous, but he can't deny that the nap was great. So now these two grown men are seriously considering recreating the perfect nap instead of doing anything productive. And somehow, that becomes completely normal in their world. Then, Chandler gets another headache when Janice finds out about the wedding. Janice sees Monica's engagement ring and immediately realizes that Monica and Chandler are getting married. She starts talking about the wedding and even manages to invite herself. Chandler is obviously nervous because he knows Janice can be extremely dramatic. He's already imagining her showing up at the wedding, demanding attention, giving a speech, or somehow turning the entire event into a Janice performance. Monica tries to convince him that everything will be fine. But Chandler isn't exactly confident. And considering Janice's history, his concern isn't completely unreasonable. The episode also continues exploring Rachel's situation with Tag. The friends discuss whether Tag actually likes her or whether she's simply imagining the connection. Joey gives Rachel some advice, but, as expected, his advice is not exactly what you'd call intelligent. This leads to Joey explaining his famous moo point. According to Joey, it's basically like a cow's opinion. It doesn't matter. And somehow, even though the logic is completely ridiculous, the explanation is so confidently delivered that it almost sounds reasonable. The episode also continues exploring Rachel's situation with Tag. The friends discuss whether Tag actually likes her or whether she's simply imagining the connection. Joey gives Rachel some advice, but as expected, his advice is not exactly what you'd call intelligent. This leads to Joey explaining his famous moo point. According to Joey, it's basically like a cow's opinion. It doesn't matter. And somehow, even though the logic is completely ridiculous, the explanation is so confidently delivered that it almost sounds reasonable. That's one of the funniest things about Joey. He can say something completely wrong with so much confidence that everyone needs a second to process it. Then Thanksgiving arrives, and the group decides to play a game where everyone has to name all 50 U.S. states. At first, everybody thinks this is going to be incredibly easy. Rachel does pretty well and manages to name 48 states. Phoebe gets bored with the challenge and starts listing different types of celery instead. Joey, surprisingly, does much better than expected. But Ross takes the game to an entirely different level. When he discovers that he can't remember all 50 states, he becomes completely obsessed with finishing the list. Everyone else is ready to move on, but Ross refuses to accept defeat. He starts trying to remember every state he might have forgotten, and the pressure keeps building. The funniest part is that Ross is normally the one who considers himself the smartest person in the group. So discovering that he can't complete a simple geography game seriously bothers him. Everyone starts teasing him, which only makes him more determined. Eventually, Ross makes a deal that if he can't complete the challenge, he won't get dinner. For Ross, this has become a matter of personal pride. He becomes so frustrated that he even starts questioning the entire country. By the end, Ross is completely determined to name all 50 states before dinner. While everyone else is basically sitting back and enjoying the show, And that's what makes the episode work so well. There isn't one giant dramatic storyline. Instead, the episode keeps jumping between several hilarious situations: Monica and Chandler's engagement, Ross and Rachel's confusing relationship, Phoebe's cookie investigation, Rachel's new assistant, Chandler's terrible photographs, Ross and Joey's legendary nap, Janice causing wedding anxiety, and finally, Ross completely losing his mind over American geography. In the end, the friends are still dealing with the same thing they always do: relationships, friendship, embarrassing secrets, and problems that somehow become much bigger than they need to be. And despite all the chaos, that's exactly what makes their group so entertaining.